So we are joined by my almost literal partner in crime. Not literally. We haven't actually committed any crimes together. But he is Jose Vega, an activist based in the Bronx. He's a member of the Schiller Institute and worked as a staffer for Diane Sayre, who ran as an independent for U.S. Senate against New York Democrat Kirsten Gillibrand. He has recently confronted New York-based politicians about their support for the Ukraine war and to demand accountability from the Biden administration for blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline. I will have you know, Jose, anything they might have done with the Nord Stream pipeline was safe and effective. Welcome to the show. Are you in the Boogie Down Bronx right now?
I am in the Boogie Down Bronx, actually, wearing some of my favorite drip, Boogie Down Grind drip here. Yeah.
I've been away long enough. I'm missing New York a little bit.
Really?
A little bit. Like, not enough that I actually want to go there, but enough that when I see you in that apartment, it just feels like a New York apartment. That feels like a New York window. Just has that vibe.
Come to New York soon because you're going to have to go door knocking with me.
I am. Well, I'll be there. Well, come on, man. You're stepping on the set. I was going to make a whole thing. We had a drummer. All right, you can go home. You can go home, Bill. This was like the only gig he's had all month. I thought you were for the worker, man. All right, so we want to take a quick look at some of Jose's work for anyone who's not familiar. Now, I personally believe, and I'm not just saying this, me and Keaton have talked about this offline. If you've noticed, there are people all over the country jumping up and interrupting politicians. Joe Biden can hardly show up anywhere without getting interrupted. Now, of course, that is partly the circumstances, particularly of Gaza. But it's not just Gaza. I mean, wherever these politicians go, this has been happening even pre-October 7th. I do believe that Jose and his merry band have something to do with that, because they were the first people to really, in modern times, do this on the regular. Back in the day, the 60s and 70s, they used to do this a lot. But this has really come back in a big way, talking back to these politicians who for a really long time have expected decorum and propriety. So I think Jose, Keaton, who we've also had on our show, and a bunch of other people from their group have been doing this, and I think a lot of folks have followed their lead. So we're going to take a look at a couple of our favorites. This is the one that you did on Nancy Pelosi. You just can't top that line. I'm not going to step on it. You'll see for yourself if you haven't already.
Hey, Congresswoman! I came to see a warmonger, but you're a sad old drunk. What happened? When you went to Taiwan, were you looking for Ukraine? Did we blow up the Nord Stream on accident or on purpose? Did you know about that? Aren't you supposed to be part of the indictment tomorrow? You're a war criminal by definition, Miss Pelosi. You got some nerve. Is that why you're here in Manhattan? Is that why you're here? Because you're getting indicted tomorrow, you goddamn war criminal? How many people have died in your fucking name? Huh? How many people have died because of Iraq? All of you forgot about Iraq? Iran, Libya, Syria.
Look at these, like, I assume old hippies that are like now, like, what's the big deal?
Yeah. So Jose, what's that like for you when you're in a room like that? And you have all these people who hate you. Look at them. They hate you. They're terrible. They're yelling, "Get out of here!" How's that feel?
It's like my Boca set I had not that long.
It's like bombing as a comic, only on purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, how does it feel in the moment? I mean, it's more of like, well, what needs to be said and what needs to be done in the moment. That's I think is more of what I'm thinking rather than actually how I feel. I mean, yeah, of course you got the exhilaration going on, you got the adrenaline pumping through your blood, but overall, really, it's what is the responsibility I have as an American citizen to call out the hypocrisy and the lies in the moment. Take the situation we have with Gaza going on right now and the international outcry. The entire world is begging the United States to wage peace. Okay, now what does that actually mean? Does that mean that Joe Biden is going to do it? No, it means that the people who compose the United States, whether you like this country or not, whether you denounce this country or not, you are a U.S. citizen. And the actions that your country is doing is a reflection of you. There were, did you hear about this thing with Chicago where they passed the ceasefire resolution?
Yes.
Right? That was for teenagers who walked out of high school to demand a ceasefire resolution. Okay, their lives have meaning now. Okay, because they did something that is real electoral politics. That is an intervention. And you mentioned before, that other people have started doing this too. You credit me as some of the first. I credit people like Mike Prisner, who also did this too when he confronted Bush and said, my friends are dead because of you. And there are people like Yves Engler and other who've done it before. But ultimately, the credit is to people who actually stand up and do it. And people tell me sometimes that they felt influenced by what they've seen in me. I appreciate that. But ultimately, it's what are you prepared to do? And so I'm sorry, I got serious.
Like Sean Connery in The Untouchables.
I don't know.
What are you prepared to do? Well, Jose, I just went to the Academy Award museum, which sucked, frankly. But it gave me an idea. We should start giving Intervention of the Year awards. We'll call it the Golden Shoe, and we'll give people a shoe for the award. Wait, what do you think? Can you get behind that?
A golden shoe? Oh, because of the guy who threw a shoe at...
I think he should be honored in any award ceremony.
Well, I don't know about that.
All right. So me and Jose... we did not commit any crimes, but metaphorically we're partners in crime because we found out that Rachel Maddow was going to come to read from her book. And so I reached out to Jose like, yo, man, you want to do this thing? And of course he did. So
what is this? What is that?
Okay. So this is the largest Jewish synagogue in New York. This is Temple Emmanuel. And this was maybe a week after October 7th. I think this was
10 days. It was October 17th.
It was October 17th. So it was right at that moment. And I'll tell you, if you're not familiar with New York, the people who'd be at this synagogue on Fifth Avenue to hear Rachel Maddow read from her fucking shit book, those are the worst of the worst. That is the shit lib Borg homeworld. To go into a place like that.
The Stuart Seldowitz, only,
the other Jews are
testosterone.
Yeah.
All the Jews who are not funny. Exactly. Yeah. And, they hang on every word that Rachel Maddow was saying. I mean, Rachel Maddow would say something. These are the kind of people who Rachel Maddow would make an observation to. Yes. Oh, yes, that's so true. Would say that out loud. TV. Yes, as if they're watching her on TV. Yeah. So to arrange this, we figured out Jose would sit further back and I would sit to the front, so it's not obvious we're together, so that after he goes, they wouldn't kick me out too, so I could go later. I played that clip of my intervention, which was about an hour after, but Jose was really funny, man, because I asked him, so what do you want to do? He was like, I'm not listening to that fucking book. As soon as she starts reading, I'm going. So you can see with my camera, I took him at his word. I turned on the camera as soon as she started reading, and true to his word, man, she didn't get to a period or a comma before he intervened. So let's take a look at that.
Rachel, I'd rather not listen to your boring book because you are here to get Israel. Just like you got 2016 wrong yet again. All you are is the biggest warmonger. You and the rest of the media are the biggest warmongers ever. Why is it that other countries are calling for peace? Brazil, Russia, India, and China all call for peace from the United Nations. And what do? You're just a big, ugly face. You're a warmonger. All of you are just straight.
Yeah, he made them take my man down.
That's right. Look at what they do to free speech. There's an ethnic cleansing in Gaza.
He made them carry him. Look at him.
Every single one of you.
Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Oh, this is why Boca Raton sucked. It's the same fucking people.
It is the same. It's literally the same
The
people.
conservative ones are the same. Oh my god. Thanks for buying the book. Oh, great.
He was one of the most successful and celebrated industrialists on the
planet. Oh my god.
Unfortunately, she continued. So yeah, I mean, these are the kind of people who would pay to see Rachel Maddow and get her book, not just to be disruptive. Jose, did you get your book? Did you get to keep your book?
No,
Me neither.
I think I asked about my book, and they just straight up said, "Fuck your book."
That's exactly what they said to me. That's exactly what they said to me. I guess that was the standard line.
All right, the same guy.
It probably was,
yeah.
Actually. All right, so Keaton has been working for about a year on a documentary about Jose. It's about a year now, right?
We shot the interview at Jose's place in April, so I haven't been working on it for a year. I had it almost ready to go in October, but then we put it off a little while because we knew we were going to do the Maddow thing. And then after the Maddow thing, it was like pretty much ready again. But then Jose told me he was going to be making a big announcement early 2024. So I've actually been kind of sitting on it for the most part. I mean, I've been touching it up since I've had the opportunity to, but I've been kind of sitting on it since October. But we shot it almost a year ago, and we're going to premiere it tomorrow on our channel, the Do Dissidence YouTube and Rumble channel at 7 p.m. And then Jose is going to join us for a talk.
That's 7 p.m.
It's been
Eastern
about a year
time.
in the making. All things
considered.
Yeah,
I actually really, I got to watch the documentary last night, and I really like the fact that you made it contemporary. Even though we shot it back in April, it shows the evolution of how the interventions have evolved and changed from when I first intervened on AOC to everyone standing up in the country right now, interrupting Kamala Harris, Biden, their congressmen. I mean, that I think is what the documentary captures very well, is that evolution of the interventions.
Well, it was really important to capture that. I mean, we had to put something about Gaza in there. Otherwise, it just wouldn't make any sense nowadays to put something out like this without mentioning that. And so, fortunately, this Maddow intervention is part of it, which you mentioned, Gaza in that scene. But then there are some scenes that touch on that later on toward the end of the film, which I'm glad. It all kind of worked out for the best, because now we get to release this in coordination with your launch, and we get to include some footage on the most pressing humanitarian matter of our generation.
All right, so let's take a look at the preview. Anyone who saw Keaton's New Hampshire cut, which he threw together in less than 24 hours, he is a master of his editing craft.
Well, this is sort of this isn't really a trailer. This is kind of a part of a sequence, because part of what drew me to Jose as a subject was not just the interventions, but the fact that he's part of the LaRouche movement, and that when he came out and did the intervention on AOC, there was all this kind of speculation. Well, who is this guy? Is he weird? Is he a cult member? Isn't the LaRouche movement a cult? And
he's a white supremacist.
Politics? Yeah. All kinds of insinuations that people make about you when you have that name attached to you. And a theme of our show, certainly a huge theme of the Jimmy Dore show these past few years, has been trying to bridge the left-right gap and find common ground and talk to people whose politics might be different from ours. And Jose is a perfect embodiment of that principle in action, because as this clip shows, he started out, he joined the LaRouche movement as a teenager, and then you were a Bernie supporter for the first part of 2016. Then you became a Trump voter. Then you kind of not supported AOC, but a matter in your life came up where you reached out to AOC for help. And then obviously you turned on her, and now you have sort of given up on the political system in that way. So Jose kind of represents this perfect arc that so many of us have actually been on. But like so many of us, he's hard to put in a box and, smack a label on in terms of like what his ideology is. And so this is part of a segment that touches on that, the transition from Bernie bro to Trump voter.
All right.
Yeah, and before we play the clip, I just want to say, I really appreciate you acknowledging that. I think a lot of people, especially now with this big announcement, I've had people say, well, just drop the LaRouche name or don't mention it, as if that's going to make a difference in me winning or not. I think people don't understand the fact that maybe I shouldn't spoil the surprise. I'm sorry. I almost
I called the band back, and
hey, can I tell you? I think you might be wrong about Maddow's book. It's called Prequel, and it's all about. It's a finely crafted.
Well, it's about that terrible trilogy that Lucas did.
That's exactly right. The how fascism happened. No, it's about how fascism almost started in America a long time ago because of the isolationism and not wanting to get into wars.
Right.
That's what this creep wrote that book about.
Right.
People not wanting to bomb people.
Oh no, I know because I had the patience to sit through a lot more of this than Jose did. So I saw the game she played with that audience. She kept implying a connection between them and pro-Palestinian protesters without ever coming out and saying it so that she could be quoted on making that connection. Very, very slick, slimy character.
The court ruled she tells sparkly stories.
Yes. All right. I mean, I would have kind of liked to have the book just to tear it apart, but they told me, fuck your book, and I took them at their word. All right, so let's take a look at this.
I started the election season as a Bernie bro, and I ended as a Trump voter.
How stupid are the people of Iowa?
How does that happen?
Somebody hits me where the belt's going in because the belt moves this way. It moves this way. It moves that way.
Well, like I was saying, I had anti-establishment sentiments.
Senator Sanders wasn't really a Democrat until he decided to run for president. He doesn't even know what the, last two Democratic presidents did. And well, it's true. It's true. It's true.
I knew she was evil. I was like, Bernie's my guy. And then he lost the primary, and then it gets revealed in the WikiLeaks emails that Hillary Clinton conspired to get him out of the race.
You're back in the news, of course, because WikiLeaks released thousands and thousands of emails from the Democratic National Committee.
And there was inner establishment in the Democratic Party working against one of their own people to get Hillary Clinton the nomination.
Do you think this is fair game?
Well, it was definitely good fun.
And I was just so pissed off at that. I was like, what the hell? Okay, what happened to, quote, democracy? You guys got to fight for the nomination. You can't play dirty. You can't play unfair. What is this? And then what really pissed me off was that Bernie didn't want to fight it either. He then endorsed Hillary Clinton. I was like, how do you get fucked in the ass and then bend over for them again? Come on. Sorry, is that okay for me to?
Oh, yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, okay.
That's very on brand.
You've seen our show.
Yeah.
He just wanted to keep his wife out of prison. Can't you understand that?
Yeah. I suspect that is true. All right, so that is premiering tomorrow night on Do Dissidence and Rumble, and boom, Jose is running for Congress against one of the scummiest people in Congress, and that is very, very competitive. Ritchie Torres, who represents his section of the Bronx. So what can you tell us about that, Jose?
All right. Well, first of all, the website is votevega.nyc. Thank you. Yep, that's the website. That's everything. Look, when it comes to electoral politics, I know people have their gripes about it, frankly, because people have lost their ability to actually have any faith in electoral politics and what people deem electoral politics. Mm-hmm. What I believe electoral politics to be is what we saw in Chicago, where the constituency in Chicago, where the teenagers decided to stand up and walk out and force the mayor to break the tie. See, because what it was the city council was 23-23 deadlock as to whether or not they were going to pass the ceasefire resolution. And the mayor was actually the one who broke the tie. Okay, that constituency decided to stand up and organize for a ceasefire. I don't know if people know what Chicago is, but this is like the city of Al Capone. Okay, this is like the scummiest, of the worst of the worst city politics.
Or Mayor Daley.
There you go. right? Okay. And they were able to do this. So the only other city that would be almost impossible to do, but possible, is probably New York City.
Right.
Okay. And you're talking about New York City, which the ADL and IPAC have such a very strong foothold.
I mean, New York, it's really impossible. There's absolutely no way.
No, exactly. Yeah. And so when people are talking about electoral politics, you know, people are looking for somebody to look up to, a leader that they can believe in. Well, you know what? I cannot promise you I'm going to win. I can't even promise you I'm going to get you a vote. You know why? Because there's something called schmection fraud, which I don't want to say considering the platform that we're on.
Yes.
But I think people know what I'm talking about, right? So we don't even have honest processes that can actually get people who should be representing people in office, right? On part of that, my opponent has like a $7 million treasure chest head start, right? So I'm going to get outspended, I'm going to get outfunded, and I'm still going to come here and ask you for money because, well, I needed to run a campaign. And the reason I decided to actually run, I mean, yes, Ritchie Torres is scum. Ritchie Torres gets a lot of money from IPAC. Ultimately, I'm from the Bronx. I was born in the Bronx. And the Bronx is one of the places that has gotten left behind by the United States. You know who's buried here in my district? It's Gouverneur Morris. That's a name people don't even know. Gouverneur Morris was one of our founding fathers who actually penned the Constitution. Okay, and now it is one of the most hardcore ghetto places in the Bronx today. Okay,
it's very strange. As a New Yorker, we call the Bronx the Forgotten Borough. Very strange how like this one area kind of got left behind in economic advancement.
That's what you mean. I thought you meant like in terms. I forgot about Staten Island as being a borough, but you know.
Yeah, but economically they're doing fine.
Yeah,
when I came out to see you a few months ago when we did the Maddow thing. Yeah, it reminds me of New York in the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. It's look, and then I think Kurt, actually last time I was on here, you referenced the documentary Hookers on the Point.
Yes.
It's still that bad. It is still that bad. No matter what people will tell you about Hunts Point, it is that bad.
I think
it's look, you are either with the human race or you're against the human race. And people like NATO are completely against the human race. They think that the opposition, that the enemy is the human race, and they'd rather serve the system instead of you. And so one of the reasons I'm running is that we shed light to the fact that there's snod, and that there are no honest processes anymore. And the other important thing is that, like, here in New York State, for an independent, because I'm running as an independent. I don't know if I made that clear. I do not believe in the two-party system.
All right. So you are not running as a Democrat or a Republican. You are not running in their rigged primary.
If you ever see me do that, you have like the right to smack me or something, to my senses or something. But I am not running as a Democrat or as a Republican. I'm running unaffiliated. And the last time that I participated in an election like that was in 2022. When Diane Sayre was running against Chuck Schumer. But do you know the work it took to get her on the ballot? You only get 6 weeks, right? So to get the number of signatures that you need to get on the ballot as an independent candidate, you only have a 6-week window. And you need 45,000 signatures. That was only raised during COVID. They tripled. It used to be 15,000 all across the state. Now it's 45,000 signatures for Diane to be a statewide candidate, okay? And we got it through the skin of our teeth because it's not 45,000 because they can challenge your signatures. They can say, this one's too sloppy. I can't read this one. Really, we got away with like 68,000 signatures. We were the only ones able to do it. We didn't pay people. I mean, yeah, we paid like gas and a stipend. And so what we need now is the fact that Diane and I are both running, but I need 7,000 signatures in my district alone just to be a candidate. And people don't want me to run. They want me to win. That's like what people keep telling me. And I'm telling you, it's virtually impossible if we don't organize right now to get people to put me on the ballot, first of all, and secondly, that we raise some money so that I can pay people a stipend at least when they come out and petition for me.
What is the deadline for those 7,000 signatures?
So the petitioning window starts April 16th, and you have till May 31st.
All right, and let me just bring in my my own knowledge of New York history here. So New York, you ask people what's the most corrupt state in America, and they would think it would be like Louisiana or something. No, New York is always in the top 5. It depends on the year. Very often it's number 1.
Legacy.
And that goes back to an old New York tradition of Tammany Hall, which was the corrupt urban political machine, Democrats that ran New York overtly for over 100 years, but never really went away. It's still very woven into New York style politics, or still have that legacy of machine style politics. So, for example, now this doesn't apply to Jose, he's not running as a Democrat, but one of the reasons an insurgent can get almost no momentum is you have to have registered as a Democrat. What is it, Keaton? 6 months before the primary?
Used to be. Then they moved it up to, I think, around Valentine's Day. I think around mid-February. They moved it. But it's still, because New York goes, what, in like May? So it's still like about 3.5 months. But it used to be the prior fall. It used to be like the October before the primary, which is about 6 months in advance.
This is designed to make sure that an insurgent can't catch fire, because insurgents tend to be late-breaking candidates because they don't have the resources. It's all word of mouth. It's all grassroots. So it's to make sure nobody can get enough momentum to really challenge the Democrat. Now, Jose is wisely.
In 2016, I was knocking on doors for Bernie Sanders the day of the New York primary to get off to try and get out the vote, and 3 UPS drivers saw me walking around and they gave me the fist in the air. Go get them. And I said, did you vote? All 3 of them said, no, I can't, because I'm not a registered Democrat.
And these are the same Democrats who tell you that you have to vote Democrat because they're going to protect democracy. They're going to protect you from the Republicans. The Republicans are going to take away democracy. But if you look at cities and states where Democrats really have power, they are arguably worse in terms of their policies about voting than Republicans.
Can I ask you a question? How like in the great Netflix documentary "Knock Down the House" about the rise of AOC?
Right. Well, that's Jose. AOC is an advisor, right? She's working with you.
Just a homegirl from the hood, from the barrio, who came up and knocked down the house. How did she get in? Is she an industry plant?
All right. So, honestly, for the time being, just like with the Uyghurs, I had a lot of people. I would speak on the Uyghurs. I hadn't really researched it. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to speak on it until I do more research. I will hold my Tank Uyghur
and Hassan, the Uyghur family. Yes,
I'm going to say this. A lot of people have come at me saying AOC is an op, and somebody sent me a thread that's kind of been going around Twitter for a couple of years. I am now in the process of backtracking some of the claims in that thread, and if they check out, if enough of them check out, then we will talk about it on the show.
Well, is it
for now on the question of whether she's an op? I can speak on whether she's a scumbag. Yes,
no, not an op.
But spoiler alert. But I can't speak on whether she's an op.
I mean, right like now. How in music the kids say, "Well, somebody's an industry plant because they make crappy pop music." Literally every politician, you cannot even win unless you are like Reagan was the first industry plant. They loved him for what he did, ruining the union for SAG.
Right. Yeah.
GE hired him with like a special high-tech light bulb house, and then they put him as president. He got cast.
Right.
All of our politicians, it's common knowledge.
A lot of people. Well, this gets into AOC. If she was an op, if she was groomed basically to sheepdog the left. What are your thoughts, Jose? You have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think also the documentary kind of goes through it too about AOC. I do believe in the beginning, at least, she was genuine, and I think I've seen this Twitter thread you're talking about where she actually got to go on some.
She went to Niger or something. Yeah.
Yeah, right, and it was all paid for by USAID. I don't know. I think the documentary Knock Down the House does a very good job at convincing me that she was genuine.
Don't ruin it for me. I haven't seen it yet. Jesus.
don't spoil. Does she win?
But I think at some point along the way, when she won her primary to when she actually got elected in the general and stuff, I mean that's when the corruption happens. You saw it almost immediately when she said, "Yeah, we're going to vote out Nancy Pelosi unless they pass Medicare for all," and then ultimately she didn't. Right. And now, I mean, look at her. She's endorsing Joe Biden. She says, "No, I don't endorse genocide, but I do endorse the people that do it." Now, that's okay with me.
Has she downgraded his A- grade to a B+ now?
Yeah, right. Like, genocide.
I have felt
Jose, that hat you're wearing, the Boogie Down Drip, is that the coffee shop you work at?
It is, yes.
So you were telling me a few weeks ago that AOC wandered into your coffee shop one day while you were working, and you actually met her, and she recognized you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll tell this story, and then I'll say what I should have done. And the offer is still open. Is that she walked in, and I was wearing. It was Halloween, and I was wearing a Shakespeare costume. I was dressed like Hamlet, so I had like poofy shoulder things, and I was working behind the bar that day, and she came in and she ordered like a skim milk cappuccino, her and her assistant. What I should have said is, how are we going to organize people in your in Hunts Point to, stop the genocide in Gaza? And I didn't say that. I didn't think of it at the time, but this is me publicly saying, like, if she still wants to do that, I'm open to doing that, because we need to stop a genocide happening in Gaza right now.
Yeah,
like, I even posed this to Ritchie Torres, who I know would never do it in a million years, but like, hey, there's a genocide happening across the world. You say you want to stop it. Let me help you do that.
Well, we'll work with anyone who's sincere, but I wouldn't hold my breath with those
Ritchie
two.
Torres.
They are the last people I think we're going to get help from.
I forgot who he was till you mentioned him, and I remember seeing that guy interviewed, and I couldn't believe what a scumbag he was. He looked like a junior, like, I'm going to be a new Obama that comes out of nowhere, and I smile and say, duh. He was the most phony, like, corporate advertising shill delivery of crap points that I've seen in a while.
Yeah, and he must not be doing it himself. He must have a team that watches his Twitter.
Of course.
He puts out like 15 rabid Zionist tweets a day, and if you give any pushback, you are blocked within 60 seconds. You're off
That's
Hannah,
his Twitter. His social media lady. Hannah's got it. Don't worry.
All right. So, Jose, before we go, what do you want people to know? Your website is votevega.nyc. All right.
Yes, and I just wanted to say a few things here. First, I want to thank you, of course, for allowing me to come on here. I hope I can come back on here in the future. Maybe I'll even fly out in studio, Kurt, and then we can talk in person and say some things we can't say on YouTube.
Dude, you should you should hit up Andrew Schultz.
Oh, can you put me in touch?
Yeah.
Okay, well then, let's connect. But I want to say a couple things. I want to say, one, I don't just want the Bronx to elect me. I want to elect the people of the Bronx, because I nominate them to stop the genocide in Gaza. I nominate them to bring about high-speed rail. I nominate them to hold someone like AOC accountable, as I went out and did with my intervention. That's why an independent campaign is not only a waste of time, but it's the only path forward. It's not a waste of time. It's the only path forward. And so just one more thing to say. I of course, I want to shout out some of the people who are leading these interventions. There's Medea Benjamin. There's Ray McGovern. There's Anastasia Battle, who's out in Michigan, who I think is going to go see JD tonight as he performs. And, there's also, I want to give people some hope. Every Friday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time, there's been an International Peace Coalition call. Over hundreds of organizations get on a Zoom call that Anastasia organizes, and they listen to Anastasia and Helga Zepp-LaRouche, who've been calling for how do we actually move forward? What is the grand strategy for peace? And this has been happening every Friday, and people around the world are giving reports as to what they're doing. And I want to pass that on all of you. And just one more thing.
And how do people find that?
People can go on either the Schiller Institute website or some of the other organizations. If you just type in Schiller Institute, International Peace Coalition, it'll come up. Or if you just type in International Peace Coalition, other organizations' press releases on it will come up. Our campaign needs at least $50,000 just to get on the ballot. That's just so I can get people, pay them a stipend, pay their gas. And finally, Kurt, if you can hook me up with Cat Williams, I think we should definitely get
I don't know him, dude. I would hook you up if I did. I never met that guy.
Well, get some. You can figure it out.
Look, man, you come out here. Kurt is great for hooking you up with hookers and blow.
Listen, you can
and also he helped me find an In-N-Out burger where we brought the hookers and the blow.
Okay, another thing, you probably have to start supporting Israel a lot more to talk to a lot of these people. Okay, I love your whole thing, but you really need to get behind Israel way more than you're doing.
Yeah. I guess you're right.
All right, so that little campaign tip there for you.
Yeah.
Free of
I
charge.
could be like Bobby Kennedy, right? I'm good on everything except Israel.
Except Israel.
Right. This is one, but I mean, for the district, I imagine the people there. I have to imagine since it's the Bronx.
Yeah, you need the Shmuley vote, but not in the Bronx so much.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, no. Big shout out to Bronx Anti-War Coalition and the Green Party.
No,
they've been doing good work, even though some of them aren't biggest fans of me because of the whole LaRouche thing. I endorse everything they're doing right now. They're actually out there protesting against Ritchie Torres. So they should keep doing that.
I mean, Bronx has more people that know about that kind of shit than you'd be surprised.
Yeah, it's not like the district in the village that elected fucking Dan Goldman.
Yeah,
the Levi's
exactly.
area.
Right.
It's a very different.
Well, they have local
district.
concerns. They probably
like if there is any part of New York that would vote for Jose Vega to take out Ritchie Torres, it's the Bronx.
Well, you got to prove. I hope so. I want that to be true, but people have to decide if they want that to be true. That's my attitude on this thing.
All right. Anything else, Keaton? You want to plug your documentary there? Where do they find that documentary?
What's that?
Where do they find that documentary?
We're going to premiere the documentary, Ruckus, The Making of a Revolutionary, tomorrow night. That's Sunday night. Tomorrow, the 4th at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Do Dissidence YouTube and Rumble channel. And Jose will be joining us for a talkback. We will do a sort of super chat talkback on YouTube, and then we're going to do a call-in talkback on Rumble. So great night planned over there on the Do Dissidence channel. So subscribe and be there tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern.
All right, okay. So the website is
votevega.nyc. Votevega.nyc. We need money so we can make this happen.
Well, I you can't tell people that you need money when you have an effects budget like that, Jose.
What the hell was that?
Wait, what was that? Was that you guys?
It looks like you're doing just fine. What was that? Industrial Light and Magic
did that? I did this? Whoa.
Yeah. Oh, look at come on, man. You don't need money.
Dude, you could make like just like
some Skywalker Ranch shit right there.
It is amazing. Do you like Ryan Long? Ryan Long's videos go like viral. You see a couple funny videos that are making a point, and I'll bet you get a lot of just real easy off that.
We'll collaborate. I'll be back in the city soon enough. All right,
well,
so
maybe I'll come out to Cali, and then I can be
or come out. Me and you, there's one bed, but we'll do the thing where we sleep in the opposite direction.
Okay.
With the feet to the head kind of thing. Like when you're 10 and you sleep over your friend's house. All right.
That doesn't work. Russell will have gender affirming surgery. He'll transition.
Well, don't step on the next segment. All right. So that website is votevega.nyc, folks. If you can, they need money. They need volunteers. And you saw what Jose does. Isn't that the kind of thing you want to get behind and support? I know I do. So votevega.nyc. Jose, thank you for joining us. We will see you tomorrow night for the documentary premiere, my friend.
Thank you. Take care.
Hey, come see us do a live stand-up show. We're going to be in Omaha, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Michigan, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Philadelphia, Avenel, New Jersey, Boston, Palm Springs, and more. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets. See you at a live show.